All right, I have 6 o'clock, so I am going to call the Village of Cross Plains Finance Advisor and Enhancement Committee for November 3rd to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Thuzius,
Here.
Committee Member Hillebrand,
Here.
Committee Member Cutler,
Here.
Committee Member Hicks, Committee Member Henry, President Langfeld.
Here. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Finance Advisor and Enhancement Committee. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the Finance Advisor and Enhancement Committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Doesn't look like we have anybody.
Nope.
We'll move right on to general business. Number one is discussion and possible approval of the October 6, 2021 Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee minutes. Do I have a motion?
So motioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. General business number 2, discussion of the 2023 capital improvement plan items. You should have received a chart. Oh yeah, there we go. Good, thank you. These are the ones first of all, I want to make sure I captured. These are the ones that I actually wrote down that people thought there may have something we can, a role we can play on those. Did I miss any? Does anybody?
No.
Okay, so what I did, so those are the items, and you go to the next one, the comments. I kind of wrote down some of the comments on what we'd be looking at. But I could not find any notes for the snow blower one or the pickup. I don't remember. So that's why there's nothing there. I didn't have anything written down and I couldn't remember what we would be looking at those. So we can kind of rehash those if they stay on the list, what we'll be looking at, or just remove them. So what I'd like to do is go down and see if anybody has an interest. I thought we might look at these individually, then bring it back to the group. And then we can talk a little bit more. That I think would make it more efficient. But I'm open for any other suggestion on these. I've already at the staff meeting today, I let staff department heads know that they may be contacted by our group on some of these items in their 2023 capital improvement requests. So I guess we'll just go down the list, and if you have an interest in it, say something. And Bobby, if you can just record who's kind of taking lead on it, that would be good. Badger books, that's the voting equipment that Bobby was looking at. There's been some use of it, so I thought what we'd be looking at is checking maybe with those that have used it and what kind of time saving, and basically what kind of vendors are out there that would be used in a bidding process. Can you think of anything else, Bobby?
No, I guess, yeah, if you just talk with other communities that use it to see how they like it, how the community likes it, that kind of stuff too. But yes, also the time saving. And
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, why don't we give that one to Deb? All right, the next one is that it looked like an electric UTV when I saw the pictures and stuff. So I wrote down use, need, options, grant, charging stations, that type of stuff. Does anybody want to take that one? And okay, Kevin, great.
Yeah, I've got an interest in that one from Sustainability Committee, and
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a great tie.
Okay.
All right, and then the Melanie Acres Playground, that was more on process policy. I'm gonna assign that to Jed, since he's on Parks and Recreation. I think that's a good tie in, because that's basically who he's gonna be working with. The pool feasibility study / plan. Does anybody have a real interest in that? Otherwise, I'd be okay with taking that one.
Can you tell me a little bit more what it's about?
Well, that's a good question. They're looking in for a feasibility. So I think in the comments, what we were looking is what is the feasibility going to be looking at, necessarily the need, what items are going to be covered, and is the timing correct on that? Just basically getting more information on that. I think that one could take people in a different direction. It wasn't really clear.
Where do we get information from?
Well, I would start with Mike.
Okay.
And see what he'd be looking at as the RFP to send out. That would be what I would start with. I'm not really sure if it's to find locations for the pool or looking at a cost analysis. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, because we already have a pool.
Right, but I mean, I think this is to look at, that pool is probably pretty close to the end of its life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd be
The
interested
pool
in
is as
looking-
old as me, Molly, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
not
why don't we
saying
give
much.
that, why don't we give
Yeah.
that to Molly then? That'd be great.
Great, thanks.
Yep. The Bear Park, large diamond.
Do we know what that's about?
Well, there's I know they're looking to do a lot of work, like, put the infield, make the infield grass, replace the backstop, and maybe the fencings. And I know there's the work with, some of the money I think they're looking at getting from the baseball program and home talent. That's my understanding of some of that.
Yeah, I got but this project would include work to update the current Bear Park large baseball diamond. Project includes new backstop, diamond material, grading and sod added to the infield. They've been receiving requests for grass to be added to the infield. When adding grass, it's also a good time to update the current backstop with the netting, support poles, and new material.
Do you want, I can work with that, because I'm guessing it'll be working with probably Mike, Doug, because he kind of seems to be working with the baseball program. So why don't I put me down for that?
Okay.
So then we have the tractor mounted snow plow. I'm not, besides going out to bids, I'm not really sure. It's kind of a unique piece of machinery that we kind of need, since we remove snow on Main Street and Church Street. I don't think there's really too many other options than a snow blower into a truck.
Right.
So should we just take that off the list?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, if it's not anything we could really do, sure.
Okay.
I mean, we have one
um,
already, right?
Yeah, they have one now. It's just needs to be replaced, but I can't come up with anything that would replace it, because the whole idea is it to actually to remove snow.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, why don't we take that one right off? And then aerial lift. That one I have somewhat of an interest in. Because I think there's quite a few options. You can do the truck like MG&E. You can do what lifts like you see at construction sites that are, the four wheels. They're not really vehicles you take on the highway. And then there's always the trailer lifts that are out there that a lot of people rent and stuff. So I'd be kind of curious on that. And then just not only buying, but what's the usage? Is it better to rent? Is it better to lease? So I can take that one.
AJ,
Yeah,
since, I could see, three different people calling Jerry about these items. Maybe you should just take the ones with Jerry. I'll take the one off your hands from earlier, which I think was the Bear Park.
oh, okay. Okay, that's a
Um,
very good,
Yeah, and then we could just I think then it's just a couple of us calling Mike, and you're the one calling Jerry,
okay.
and somebody else can work with Pam on the steel shelving.
Oh, great idea. Great, that's a
I'd
great
be
idea.
happy to do steel shelving.
Okay. So, was the GM pickup, is that for Public Works or is that from, Parks and Rec?
Public
I
Works.
don't-
Yeah,
What-
Yeah.
And what were we looking at for that? Just, anybody remember? I mean, I'm not sure what a pickup is a
It's got to the
pickup.
end of its life, wasn't it? It's gonna
Yeah,
be-
that's,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
2003, yeah. So,
I'll just ask Jerry a little bit more on it, but I'm not sure there's much we can do but go to bid on that. The skid steer one that's a very interesting, it's extremely creative. So it'll be very interesting to see that's an interesting setup that they have currently. So what's that?
Yeah, that one definitely, I think, should be looked into due to, seems an odd way to do it.
It does, but it may be very cost efficient way, you know?
My only question would be that, is there a 3-year process? I mean, can we get it for 3 years and is it cheaper? Maybe not. And my biggest beef with that is I hate to see it under capital. And we discussed that before, but I mean, if they need it, they need it. If it works out really well for us, great, but then budgets is an operating cost every year, 7,000 versus borrowing 14,000 every 2 years.
No, I'll take a look. I think I think you're right. That would be the second tier to look at. The first is just the cost benefit of doing it that way is number one. And then once that's decided, if this is by far the best way, we got a sweetheart deal on doing this, then yeah, then it's talking about should it be shifted over to an operating cost.
Right, and so if it covers all of our maintenance costs, is it, how many times has it been down in the last year or the previous contract? Was it down a lot that we saved a lot of money because of repairs that we didn't have to pay for? I mean, none of those, that'd be helpful to know too, if we're really
Yeah.
saving money.
Right. Yep, I'll sit down and really try to totally understand the whole thing, but I gotta believe those things are really expensive.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, did you get everything then on who's got what?
I do, yep.
All right, perfect. Anything else on this item that people want to talk about?
I don't know if it goes under this item, but it sort of. I was curious with the new role that Bill Chang is taking. Is it still as needed to be asking the Chamber of Commerce to be doing, paying them to do advertisement and such for the village?
Well, I think they're in different lanes. That's, I want to say, they need to work somewhat together, but the chambers is like more into mentoring and putting on events, which we wouldn't want Bill to do. Bill is
Okay.
more out there recruiting businesses and helping them get through the processes and the zoning stuff. So I think there's some overlap, but clearly there's different lanes for them both to be doing.
Just in my opinion, once again, every time I see them, the chamber advertise things on Facebook and other social media, the amount of businesses that are outside the Cross Plains area is significantly more than businesses in the village. And, you know, I'm using my tax dollars are going towards businesses that are not Cross Plains businesses. So
I guess I
it's
don't,
just something I notice a lot.
yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know. When you say advertising, what do you,
The businesses they're promoting. If you look, I've looked before just out of curiosity, and they have a lot of businesses that they promote that are not within Cross Plains.
okay, but
But they're
I guess I
probably
would
members
ask-
of the chamber.
Right, but are we helping to promote businesses outside of Cross Plains or inside of Cross Plains is my question.
well, I guess
mean-
this is getting a little deeper. I think what I can do is put it on the next.
Okay,
Yeah, the next meeting. I think we're
Do
getting
you
deep
mean
into it.
outside of the village proper or town, or, I mean, what, does membership in the chamber have to be within Cross Plains?
No.
it does
I-
not. The question I have is then are we, I would like to see our tax dollars going to support our businesses, not as businesses outside the village.
What I'll do is I'll put it on next month's agenda, and I'll see if maybe one of the chamber board of directors can come and answer questions. I don't know how the function works and how the funding works and all that good stuff. I know I met with the board and I met with Bill, and we have pretty good lanes for economic development and business support. And of course, there's always going to be a little crossover, but I think the main functions of both Bill and the chambers are different.
Okay, that's all I
But
was
I-
curious about.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, and that, I guess I don't know exactly where all the effort goes, and I just see that they do events, and I don't know they do mentoring of some of the newer businesses, so. But that's about my limited knowledge on that.
Okay,
But I'll put it on and we'll see if we can get somebody.
Jay, our water and sewer projects in the 2023, are we looking at any of those or are they kind of off the table?
Yeah, I kind of took them off because they're continuations of what's already happening.
Okay.
All right, anything else on the capital improvement plan item? All right, let's go to discussion and possible action on the sidewalk assessment report. Tim and I put this together. So I guess let's start with the actual report. I guess we'd be looking for feedback and comments on that in general. If there's information that should be added or deleted or things like that. And then we'll talk about Jerry's email and go through those 9 points. So everybody okay with it?
Yeah, I got one comment, or I guess maybe one thought about options, and that is, I would love for landowners to, I would like to say it's just simple to say we charge them 100%, but since this only affects a small, or maybe, maybe 40% of the population, I think that maybe it's better off that we look at something that's more shared cost. Now, how we share that is a question. But we benefit. I mean, I don't have sidewalk in my front yard, but I benefit from all the places that have sidewalks. So I guess I'm leaning more towards shared cost.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess that's why we have those options there. That'll be really
Okay.
up to the board. But I'm just can anybody think of an option out there that's not listed of one of the four? I mean, we could always do the 50, 75. That's what number 2 is. It's just didn't put
Yeah.
out numbers in there. But I think we covered the options we could think of.
Well, the only thing that, and Jerry mentioned this in his email, but there's a lot of repair costs. You go around, I was just walking in Middleton last week and there's a bunch of sidewalks that were cut, where there was a tripper. They came in and they cut them.
Yep.
So there's a lot of maintenance costs, and most of this it says maintenance up on the top of the paragraph there, repair, I mean. But a lot of this really, maybe it's just easier to look at this as replacement.
Well, see, and that's kind of going into Jerry's. I see it as, I don't want to bust up concrete if there's a cheaper way of grinding it flat. And that's what a lot of communities do.
Yeah.
Instead of replacing it, if it's just not totally even, they grind it or mud jack it up. I think that should always be a possibility.
Who pays
And
for
I
that
think-
cost? Is that the same cost though here?
Yeah.
Is that cost in this report under those
Yes,
options?
Yeah, it would, we combined, and we don't have to, but we made it repair/replacement, so it covers both.
Well, then take out replacement in the fourth point then. Staff removes old sidewalk. Well, I guess it's only, if 4 would only apply if there's a replacement. That's not a totally separate option then.
Right,
1, 2,
yeah,
and 3 are repair, replace. 4 is only replace.
right, correct.
Okay, that
Yes,
clarifies it. Thank you.
yep, I could make that clearer.
Yeah, I think that would help if you made that 1, 2, 3 are sort of options for repair and
Yeah.
replace. 4 is only for replace.
Right, yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Would this go onto people's like property tax bill, or would they just be required to write a check? Or,
No, how most of them work, except for Wanakee. Most of them, if you choose to have the municipality do it, they have a contractor that comes in and does all of it. And then they send you basically a bill that says, this is how much it costs to replace that part of your sidewalk. The village paid, let's say, half of it. Here's what you owe. Now, Wanakee actually makes it a special taxes on it. So that would come in with your tax bill. But the other ones, you do it when it's done.
So it's like a special assessment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Yeah. And in Madison, I did it for my first house. I had to replace 1 square and they sent me a bill. And then at the police station I built, they sent me a bill on it. So it's a separate billing, except for Wanakee. They do it, they throw it on your property tax bill. And I think the special assessment is much easier for administrative work side of it.
yeah, I was thinking more of the person paying the bill might not be the easiest. But I mean, depending on how much it is, a lot of people are on fixed budgets, and having sidewalks placed in could be a problem.
Okay, but I guess and that's my question. The very first part here, is everybody in agreement that the original sidewalk is either paid by the village or the developer?
Preferably
Does
just the
anybody feel
developer.
that's- Huh?
Preferably just the developer.
Well, no, because like if we do Brewery Road, there isn't a development there. It's old, it's already been developed. And if we place sidewalks in, that's going to be either us paying it or the property owners, because there is no developer.
Good point.
But is that, because that's what most of them have, most of these, except for I think Middleton, they charge for everything. But most of them have the original sidewalk is just paid by another person, not the property owner. And that's kind of how we've been doing it. So that's what it states in here. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with that. All right, I'm not hearing anything. So I'm gonna just keep it as is. And again, that can be
Sounds
something
fine.
the board can talk about. And Jerry had brought up earlier, the curb and gutter. I just think that should all stay, even though he's correct, some of these communities, not as many, also charge so much for the curb and gutter work.
Yeah, I think that there's been some history in the past, maybe streets that were put in later on, and this is going way back, but I thought people were charged, the village funded it and they got on the same interest rate, but it was so much like over a 10-year period, you could pay back curb and gutter. Sidewalk wasn't an issue because they obviously didn't put it in, but I'm trying to think of like Brewery Road or some of those other streets. Is a special assessment that was assigned back to the property owner, but given time to pay on their tax bill over like a 10-year period at the current borrowing rate the village had. But that, I say, is probably 20, 25, 30
Huh.
years.
I didn't, no one told me about that when I was talking to village staff, but maybe it was prior to any of them getting here.
Yeah, for some reason, I remember the debate on Thinnest Street going out of town, and on the south side, they didn't put curb and gutter because it wasn't annexed into the village yet. And there was a possibility they could curb and gutter it for they're redoing the road, and it would make sense. And then just assess it back to the landowner when it was annexed into the village. So that may be a little bit different, but I'm thinking we had a policy back in the day that allowed that to happen, but maybe it's not worth the headache. Or
Yeah, because I'm thinking the Church Street that we just did right where Airport Road comes in, they redid that and they put in curb and gutter, and I don't remember anybody getting assessed at that for that. And that was just what, 2 years ago?
Church Street, where was it?
Where Airport Road hits Church Street?
Yep,
They redesigned that intersection
right.
and they put some sidewalk in and they put curb and gutter going down Airport now for a ways.
Oh,
And I'll check, but I didn't hear of anybody getting assessed. Oh,
Right.
yeah, Bobby, you would know that.
Yeah, we
So-
didn't assess anybody for any of that.
Okay.
okay.
But I mean, again, that, to me, that would be a different thing we would look at if there's a real desire to do that from the board perspective. But I'd like to just keep this as sidewalk repair and replacement.
Right.
Try to keep it as narrow as possible. So anything else on this? Otherwise, let's just quickly go over Jerry's email. If you remember, I sent him this and he put 9 points together for us to think about. And the first one was, if we put in sidewalks, is that going to change the busing standard of the school district? I don't know if sidewalks make a difference or not, but I'll certainly check into that because I think that's a good question, even though we're probably decades away of making enough sidewalks to have that significant. And I don't know if sidewalks is one of the factors or not.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it is. If you don't have sidewalks, they will bus within a half mile. Otherwise, with sidewalks, you would have to be beyond a half mile of the school to be bussed in. So for instance, our home was more than a half mile from Park. If we had sidewalks, we would have to walk or drive.
And that's
would not
from
get
your
bused.
house if there's sidewalks all the way to the school.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Because
So-
using my house and the middle school, technically my kids were signed up for the bus route. And I'm shocked it's a half a mile from basically St. Francis to Glacier Creek. But since we have no sidewalks,
Yep.
they were signed up for the bus. They walked, but
Yeah,
But
Still signed up.
I agree, Jay, though, that we are so far away from having sidewalks that connect to schools, and that it could have an effect, but it's really unlikely anytime soon.
All right. All right. Well, you've answered my question, so that's good. You guys know that. I didn't think 2 was really applicable, and I'm just going off my notes. And then, like I say, 3 and 4, it is what it is. We can't, I know there's, we're not gonna put something in here on costs. It's gonna be just the statement, and then, looking at, what the costs are from 10 years ago. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of what the percentage. That's my thought on that. Yeah, 2 is the map. We did the map, and he at least says it's agreeable. I don't know if we need to do the percentage. I'm not sure if that needs to be done. And we're not looking at asphalt bike paths. The state treats those very, very different. I'm not even sure we could. I just learned that today, that there's certain things bike paths don't count for. So I don't think we need to address that.
Jay, was he referring to the, like out on KP between Milestone and then out into the other scenic,
Well, those are actually sidewalks.
or the blacktop?
Is it? I thought
There's
only,
a small portion that is.
yeah, just,
Along KP it is.
no, just most of it is concrete. Right? That's how
No, I brought that
Yes.
up the last time because I was wondering why it's a very poor path between Bourbon Road and Milestone. It's a narrow blacktop path. I think people have fallen on in the past. And then as you go further west, it's a blacktop along KP. It's not concrete. And then I see at the new St. Francis subdivision they're putting in, looks like some sort of a blacktop. I don't know who's going to be responsible for around the retention ponds.
Yeah, that's a path. That's a multi-use
Okay.
path. I guess when I'm there, I know what you're talking about in front of Milestone, but that's all gonna be redone because we got a grant for that. But I thought from, is that Gill's Way to Shops? I thought that was concrete.
No, I think
No,
it's
I-
blacktop.
That's
it's
blacktop
path.
too?
Yeah, I think it's path, not sidewalk.
Okay,
Yeah, not to mention, so Milestone probably paid for the sidewalk in front of their building, that stretch of property that they own. But once it's the east end of their property, then it's blacktop that goes past the power poles down to Bourbon. And then as you go west, past Milestone is blacktop. So,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm not,
So I think is the question
well, it
there.
really doesn't matter because that's all village owned, right? That's all conservancy
It is
there.
now, right?
Well, I think that in those situations that really the answer is if it needs replacing, it doesn't matter if it's sidewalk or blacktop. It's the thoroughfare for pedestrians. I think it's different than a bike path, but essentially that is the sidewalk out there.
Right.
We're going to
Okay.
replace it with what? Concrete, probably. So I would say it falls into this category. I think it's a
Okay.
good question, but I think it falls into this category over there. But when we're talking about parkland and bike paths like in St. Francis, I think that's a different story on village-owned parkland.
Yeah, okay.
That would be
Good point.
that's my assessment on it.
No, that makes total sense. And 4, yeah, that makes sense to look at square footage instead of, just per slab. So I think that's just, again, gets factored in with the cost. And the criteria, I think that probably falls more into policy than an ordinance. I don't know how you would describe the criteria. I think that's something that Jerry has to write up. To me,
Yeah,
that's
and
a
it exists already. You can find that for communities. Either sidewalks or bike paths have a certain slope and run and certain mismatching you know, I think you can be up to 1 inch or something like that over
Oh,
section. So
okay.
that all exists already.
okay. Very
That's
good.
easily like cut and pasted from some other policy and thrown into ours. So
Okay. And then 6, we've named this as replacement repair. So I think grinding and mud jacking is all an alternative that we would accept instead of replacing it. I would think the least cost is the best, that works.
Well, applicable or cost. Yeah, cost savings if it's cheaper to, I mean, if you're bringing a mud jacker, he may charge you a lot if you're doing 6 or 8 squares as opposed to just replacing them. So
Yeah,
we wanna wear 'em
but
out.
to me, that's a cost thing.
Right, yep.
I mean, because it's very common for grinding. I mean, I think you go to any community, you'll see where someone is, they've grind the concrete so it's smooth.
Right.
So 7, what happens in years where you can't find contractors? I guess you just wait till the next year, huh? I mean, there's not really too much we can do. And number 8, it's really interesting that he says that because on the web pages of the communities that charge 100%, they all claim that same thing, that sidewalks increase the value of the property. That's why you should pay for it. So I'm gonna and this is more curiosity, I'm gonna try to find some studies or something that actually shows that, because that was one of the first lines in these other cities' websites that charge 100%. They all mention that how it increases the value of property having a sidewalk. So I'll look into that, just more curiosity than anything. And then I agree on number 9. Like I say, that project is happening, and there is a possibility that sidewalks would be part of that. So it'd be good to at least get this thing up in front of the board at some point.
Jay, though, let me ask this. We could write a policy here or, come up with an ordinance. So maybe not. We could come up with this policy. And there are always exceptions to the policies, right? Like, I feel like this policy here is not going to cover what Jerry's talking about in 9. Maybe I should have said, does that make sense? Or do you feel that what we write up here, or whatever we propose here, what you've already proposed, would actually be covered in 9?
Yes, I would think that actually it would be an ordinance, and the ordinance would read that the original sidewalk will be paid for by the village or a developer. Replacement and repair will be done at, let's say, shared costs of 50%, village 50%,
So this,
owner.
the case of brewery, I mean, would be
Well, no, but
original.
yeah,
Would be the original development. Would be covered by
yes, that's if we did. But if the board said no, we should have 100% paid by either the developer or the owner, that would, that's going to change number 9. So I think the board's got to kind of make a decision, because this is probably one of the first times besides Main Street that, well, no, even Main Street probably already had sidewalks, where we're putting sidewalks that are not tied to a developer. I can't think of any others. I don't know if anybody else can. So it'd be kind of good to have that before Brewery Road starts on what the board feels.
What about the replacement of any landscaping? Because going back to my house, if I was to get sidewalks, I'd probably lose the tree in front of my house. I would think that in any policy you create, that should at least be addressed. So somebody doesn't come back and say, well, you cut down my tree, are you going to replace it?
Well, I think what you would find is any tree that probably needs to be knocked down is probably already in the village right away. and that the tree shouldn't have been there. That's, I think there's a setback of 25 feet, I think we have in the village. There's some setback.
Okay,
But I hear what you're saying, and that's why I'm,
I just would think you'd want to put it in the policy just to
Yep.
cut off any debate.
I would agree. I would agree with you 100% on that. But I guess what I'm looking at is, I'm going to look at what Jerry said and some of what you guys have said and maybe modify the report, and I'll bring it back for the December meeting. Are people comfortable with that?
Yeah,
And then what I can, what I'll do is I think I'll add, because a lot of the information you find right in their ordinances, maybe I'll just cut and paste an ordinance so you kind of see how the ordinances read. And I would imagine we'd want to do something similar. And then we can set a policy as a different thing, as a second item.
So is there a document that tells us what sidewalks the village maintains, like for snow removal and so forth? So I know if it abuts a park or something, then that we take responsibility for that, but I'm not sure if there's,
No,
also I've heard different stories on Church Street as being who's doing what. Is the
Here's-
homeowner or if the village is doing it, or?
No, here's what I have, and I don't know if it's a written policy, but what it is when we plow, if it basically plows the snow onto the sidewalk, then we go in and remove the snow. So parts of Church Street we do, and Main Street we do. I don't know if there's any, I don't think we do it at any of the residential, but because there's no terrace, there's no space between the curb and the sidewalk, those are the areas that we end up removing the snow.
So I think that's all of Church Street then, right? Because I think it abuts the curb. So I just wonder if that factors into what we're doing here when we add the sidewalk, that more time, more equipment to be used. If we're going to put sidewalk in the back of the curb, like Church Street is, I don't know if there's any real terrace area there.
No, there isn't, but I don't know. I understand why we do it, because there would be nowhere for
Space.
those people to
Right.
move the snow. So I think we have to
Right.
remove it, but I don't think that has any influence on the sidewalk. We're not taking ownership of the sidewalk. We're just removing the snow that we basically threw on there from the road.
Okay.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Right, but my point is, if we're gonna add more sidewalk, let's say you do Brewery Road, and we put it to the back of the curb. Now
Oh,
we just now added more work, more time.
yeah.
for
That's
building-
something
building
that they'll have, to look at. I would not support that. I think there's plenty of room there to put terrace in there
Right,
if we do
right.
it that route, but there's other alternatives, but I see what you're saying, but I don't. Again, I think that's not what we should be looking here. We should be looking at what is our policy in putting sidewalk and maintaining sidewalks throughout the village. I'm trying to keep this as narrow scoped as possible.
Yeah,
Because,
Jay, you just said maintaining. That's the word that we don't want in here. Repair,
okay,
replace.
right,
Yeah, that falls under an existing ordinance currently. The maintenance of sidewalks,
okay,
right? Like snow removal of sidewalks. That falls under a different ordinance.
right, correct.
I do think we
Okay.
might want to look at that along with this, but it's a somewhat unrelated issue.
Yeah, I'd rather not get, we can look at it, but I'd like to look at it totally different. I'd like to just focus on this as narrow as possible. All right. And then the last one that Jerry has, and was on, I didn't think the village owned any trees, and he was saying that the village trees were the main causes for sidewalk damage. Does anybody know where we own trees?
I thought he meant on Main Street before it was redone with all those big old trees.
Oh,
That's what I assumed, but I.
oh,
I'm not
okay,
sure.
okay. All right, that's good. Okay. That makes sense. All right, anything else on this? So Tim and I will talk and we'll bring back another draft at the December meeting. All right, the next is, and I just put this on because I, once again, I couldn't really read my notes. If I remember right, this transportation impact fee, we were gonna bring back with the wheel tax sometime in January and present it to the board. Is that correct? There wasn't anything else that we needed to do before then, but I just wanted to make sure.
That's what I remember.
Okay, all right. And are you guys gonna use your PowerPoint or are you gonna actually do some type of a report to give the board?
Which would you prefer?
I'm indifferent. I'm gonna leave that up to you two.
Okay.
You'll be presenting, so it's whatever you guys want. So I'm just gonna leave it, so we'll just kind of hold on this until the January meeting, and then we'll bring everything together and discuss how we're gonna present it to the board in January. All right, any other future agenda items that people would like to look at?
Not an agenda item, but Jay, are we gonna continue to Zoom or are we gonna meet as a group at some point or not?
Well, I'm open to either way. It's totally up to what you guys want to do. I'm open.
Yeah.
I know they moved the mask mandate until November 27th, so as long as that's in effect, I guess Zoom is just as easy.
It's a
And I
lot
think-
easier for me than I don't have to set up all the recording equipment and figure all that out. Like, this is pretty handy.
Yeah, I'd just as soon stay like this for, at least for now. If we have a big topic where we think a bunch of people may come and it's easier to be in person, I think then we can maybe get to a venue where we can see faces a little bit easier, but otherwise I'm totally happy with this.
Same. I like working at home. I'm trying to convince my boss to let me do it more.
Molly? She's still here?
I would guess with being a single parent of 2 kids, Zoom is easier for her.
Sorry.
'cause-
Yes, I was calling in on my drive back from soccer practice.
So,
All right.
So, yeah.
And I think because we do so much of our work outside the meeting and our meetings are more a review and feedback session, I think, yeah, I'm okay with staying this way. And I agree with Kevin. If we have a hot issue where we think there's going to be a lot of people, or we think we should make it a little bit easier for people, then I don't have a problem setting up, but we can maintain this. It's working for me. And like you say, a lot of this is just review and feedback. Most of the work is be done outside the meeting, so. All right, so let's keep it as is. If there's something you want on the agenda right now, I'm going to put the chamber, see if I can get the chamber here. I will touch base with Jed, because Mike knows that we had kind of wanted him to come and talk about how that whole replacement and stuff. So I don't know if they'll be ready for that, but maybe that'll be in December too. And I guess if people have updates on the capital improvement, we'll put that on there too.
okay.
All right, does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, just, Jay looked at my notes and it did, yeah, Mike and I was gonna talk to Mike about presenting, and I did briefly, but we didn't get to any, about presenting on the various park funding avenues. So,
Okay.
I don't know if we want to put that in the December meeting, but maybe we could put that in the December meeting. If not, I would say let's not do the January, because that seems like it's gonna be busy. So we'll aim for February.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, if you want to, I guess it's all really up to Mike on how ready or how comfortable he feels on it. So why don't
Well,
you
I
let
think-
me know?
We should put a deadline out. I mean, I work better if I have a deadline, and then I'll just get to it, get it done. So give me a deadline and we'll make it happen. I'll make Mike make it happen.
What
Okay,
was-
let's do,
Was there something new or was presented to the board about some sort of complex, a $13 million complex up by the Bear Park? No?
that was a grant that they're putting in for.
Okay.
It was a grant that gave you about 2 weeks to do. So what they went back and there was, I don't know, maybe in 2015, there was that community center that they were talking about. So they kind of just grabbed the data from that and are sending it in. And the grant is very unusual. The lowest you can put in is for $1 million. The highest you can put in is for 15 million. They have 200 million to give away. And I think there was 100 municipalities that at least listened in on it. So that's pretty much where everybody's at, unless you want to add something, Kevin, but it was pretty quick.
Oh, that was it.
All right, well, if you have anything, let me know.
Jay, you didn't give me a deadline. You were
Oh,
gonna say,
February.
got it.
Let's do parks
Thanks.
overview in February.
Thank you.
Yep. Because I just don't want to do December because of the holidays. It's not a good time to force people to do things. So let's just,
Okay.
we'll see what we have for December. We may just cancel it if there's not a whole lot.
I'll be torn up.
All right, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have
Second,
a second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Hi,
All
aye.
opposed. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
thanks. Bye.